In 2020, mid-pandemic, I left a fundamentalist evangelical Christian culture. For legal reasons, culture. The same evangelical culture that I was born into, baptized into, and married into. During my time in that cult, especially childhood and teen years, my access to media, the way that I dressed, what I ate, the way that I thought, my community was all very strictly controlled. You didn't get any more traditional conservative values than my upbringing. Plus the added bonus of consistent and daily exposure to terrifying ideology about how the government was going to hunt us all down and murder and torture my whole family in front of me for our beliefs in Jesus. And basically what I'm trying to say is because I spent over 2 decades of my life in a culture, I know it. I know the taste of it. I know the feel of it, the energy of it. And I have spent almost 4 years free of cult shit until a couple of days ago when I'm sitting there on the couch watching a wave of red values, red ideology cross a map. I could taste it again. I could feel it again. That same feeling, the feeling I felt when my parents forced me to kneel in the center of a church member's living room while a bunch of people came around to physically put their hands on me and pray over me. And I said, no, I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't want to do it. My dad made me do it anyway. And after it was done, he looked at me and he said, oh, was that so hard? Because to them, they know what's best for you. And it doesn't matter how uncomfortable you are. But my fists were clenched up like this. And I said, yes. That sucked the whole way through. That was weird. That was uncomfortable. That was an odd thing for grown-ups to do. For all of their confidence about how they as adults knew best for me, I knew what was best for me. I did. I said, no, I'm uncomfortable, and they did it anyway. It's the same feeling I would get when I would sit with my back braced against my parents' bedroom door, listening to my mom scream in pain and puke her guts out for hours on end, alone in the dark. While everyone around me, her spouse, family, church members would all tell me it was in her head and she chose to be that way. But sometimes one of them would admit to me that things had happened to her when she was a kid. And because no one acknowledged the truth of what had happened to her and nobody stood up for her and protected her, for all of the sermons about headship in the home and health, because that's at the core of every culture, a promise of wellness. Submit your body to the headship in the home. Submit yourself to your husband and you will be well. And yet I felt that wave of red go over and through me at her funeral. She wasn't even 45. The wave of red was in the words of the sermon spoken at her funeral, talking about how she passed on and was going to a better place. And yet not a single sister, brother, family member, church member asked why a grown woman had accidentally suffocated. Those values, those traditional values, that wave of red was there when I walked down the aisle to commit my life in a way I'd never wanted to the person I loved, another pastor's kid, just so we could protect our parents' reputation, because you couldn't just move in with the person you loved. And that wave of red was there when I found out that the person who promised to love, honor, and cherish me preferred my body unconscious. They promised. At the core of it all was the promise of wellness. Be a good girl. Just pray. Submit your body. All will be well. And yet, when that person's mom wanted to welcome me into the family, she was ethnic in a white household that didn't like her, and she knew I liked lavender, so she planted lavender around the family home. I came to visit, and she grabbed my hands, and she said, I want to show you something. We went outside, and in that intergenerational household, the oldest ones had gone through and uprooted everything she had planted to show a love for me. The wave of red that crossed the map was there when I saw her anger, her light flare up. She was alive. She was mad. And I saw the light go back out. A promise. We were promised wellness. We were promised health. We were promised love. These good, godly men would love us. We would be well, and yet every plant was torn up by the root, and she could say nothing, and not a single one of her sons, not her spouse, ever spoke up and said that the way that she was being treated was wrong. So when I left, I said not a word to my family. I didn't say a word to them, and I didn't tell them why, because they had made it clear. They had made it so very clear that good, godly families would rather women dead than deviate. I'm the only one. Not my great-grandmother, not my grandmother, not my mother, just me. I'm the only one here. For all of the promises of submission, of headship of the home, they all did it. My mother, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, they did it. They punched out the kids. They committed their lives to God, and they're dead. After decades of living in chronic pain, I might add. Where is the wellness? Because I felt the red when I left. And I found somebody else who had been raised the way I had, and I loved them. I felt it, and I had starved to get out. But I committed to love and openness and curiosity. I committed to a life beyond superstition, and I committed to a life beyond a promise of wellness, because the fact of the matter is, for a species that is made of sentient goop living on a rock that's hurtling through space, we have no promise of wellness. That's how they get you. They promise you health when they can't promise that at all. And you fall for it because the anxiety makes you want it so bad. But when I loved the next who had come from the same place I had, I trusted they understood my pain, my boundaries, my experience. And I loved them to the point where I gave of my resources to keep them safe. When I saw they had economic need, I gave, because I didn't want anybody I loved to feel and taste the way that tastes when you go without too long. And yet, the words would come out, I love you, I care about you, but you feel it in the way that they touch you. So I asked, and I said, do you know I don't enjoy when you touch me, when we're intimate? And they said, yes, I know you don't enjoy it, and I don't care. Because that's what cult shit is. It is the promise, the words, I love you, I care about you. But where it matters the most, they don't. It is a promise of care. Cult shit is a promise of care. And that wave of red is that. That wave of red is a promise that as long as you uphold these values, these traditional conservative values, you will be well. You won't be taxed as much. The grocery bills will go down. Family will come together. Women can't leave you because we've taken away certain rights and access to your ability to leave. Just live this way and you will be well, and family will be together. But at the core of it, it's not real. The love isn't real. Because if it was real, my family would have shown up when they knew I had been assaulted. If the love and the wellness was real, my mom and my grandma would be here right now. If the love and wellness was real, I never would have gone hungry. And if the love and the wellness was real, my partners would have touched me in a way that kept me safe. But here's the thing about leaving cult shit behind. You can't be logicked out of it. You can't be coerced out of it. You can't be empathy called out of it or shamed out of it. You have to become disillusioned with it. And for how scary everything is, and for how hard it was to leave it behind, every moment I've breathed free was fucking